let me start with the intro slide that's not up because you don't really need to see that. And that basically is the topic of our presentation today. It's a passion of mine, and our presentation revolves around who takes care of the caregiver. In my service in many different medical offices, we had many patients that would come in and out of those offices in various different vocations. And their most important thing that they wanted to accomplish was fix me quick, I've got to get back to work. That was the most important thing. So I spent many years in those different offices actually coaching these patients and trying to help them understand the benefit that they would achieve by following their recommended care plans, by taking care of their health. So it became a really big passion for me to do what I can to help people understand self-responsibility. And so that's part of what we're going to talk about today. So anyway, I'm curious, does anybody recognize this person? This was me. And every day felt excruciatingly impossible. And this is my story. Basically, I would go from job to job. I was raising two children. And when I went from job to job, I would say when I was learning something new, because I was always learning something new, I would say I don't know what I don't know until I discover that I don't know it. Well, the most interesting thing about this was that I wore so many hats, and I referred to that as many hat syndrome, because for me, it started at as early as age 5, and then the hats just got bigger. But I was always being the person that I believed that the group I was working with needed me to be. So if I was with my family, I was one person. If I was at work, I was another person. If I was with friends, I was another person. And you know, it became pretty darn exhausting. The most important thing that I discovered that I didn't know was actually who I wanted to be. Somehow that got lost under the many hats. We can move on to the next slide, Jennifer. And so this is the me that everyone saw. Everybody said, you're so smart, you're so successful, you've got 2 great kids, you've got this, you've got this, you've got this. You always get everything done. But the problem with that was, next slide, Jennifer, that was the real me. I was frustrated, I was exhausted, I wasn't sleeping. I got everything done because if I needed to fit more in, I slept less. And I was at a point where I was drinking 2 pots of coffee and sleeping an hour and a half. Not good for my health. And so I had to find a way to be able to really figure out the steps I needed to take to get to this point. And I want to ask you, which one of the following do you experience the most? You wear many hats simultaneously. You always put others before yourself. Well, I guess I will read the rest anyway. You want to discover what is keeping you stuck and you haven't been able to. You're ready to wear one hat and become the me you want to be, or all of the above. Interesting that almost neck and neck are the first option, where you wear many hats simultaneously, and all of the above. So I'm curious, how many of you, when wearing those many hats or dealing with all of these simultaneously in all of the above, how many of you think that it might feel different if you could wear that one hat? Please just don't feel that you have to speak out. One of the things that I like to specify when I'm doing a presentation is that I'm more concerned about you having time to think of your answer and know what's important for you. If you would like to speak out, you are absolutely welcome, but there is no expectation here. And so I'm wondering if anybody finds it surprising that half of us even deal with all of these things, just about half. And so I truly believe that what's really, really important here is that we merge all of those different hats into one. What's important about that? Well, all of those different hats, do you feel like you're presenting yourself the same way in each of those venues? And we can put that poll question down. I don't know if I can close it. Oh, I could. Okay. We can move on to the next slide. What's real important is we have 9 dimensions of our life. And in those dimensions, we're wearing a hat. And when we wear each of those hats, we are actually possibly being a different person. I worked with Dana, and her major concern initially was that she was emphatic that she had to be the one to take care of her husband. She had to take care of the house. She had to take care of the kids and all that while working a full-time job and being responsible to a team. And so she told me that it was just easier to handle everything by taking care of herself after she took care of everybody else, which put her at the end of the list. And then she would have her husband say, you know, everybody's busy with their stuff. What about my stuff? And then she would feel guilty. And so she often felt like he was complaining about lack of attention and there just wasn't enough time in the day. Well, due to our work together, she actually realized that she wasn't communicating well with her family, and her reactions to her experiences were mostly based on assumptions and things that occurred in the past. So she discovered that loving herself and taking care of herself was beneficial to the whole family, and was amazed at the changes that self-responsibility created in her life. So what would it feel like if we wore one hat and were the person that we wanted to be with our family when we're social, whether it's professional or business? Back up a second. Thanks. What if in our physical world, where we want to exercise and stay healthy, our spiritual world, our environmental world, like, I don't know about anybody here, but when I start to see clutter in my office, that kind of changes the way I react to everything. So I want to clear that clutter. So I want to just put out to everybody here, what area of your life gets affected by what you're dealing with? And how might these other areas be affected if that area that may be stressful for you right now improves? Okay, so we can move on. Thanks, Jennifer. So one of the things that I have found is that it's really difficult in my own experience to look inside myself. So I'd like to invite you all to play a little Imagine game with me right now. And because we're looking at the slides this way, you're going to kind of get everything at once rather than one thing at a time. And I apologize for that, for the technology. But let's imagine you may or may not have a favorite superhero. You may or may not even know what that superhero's alter ego is. But I think we all are familiar with Superman. Why is that important? Well, let's just imagine when Superman is flying around the globe, helping anyone who yells for help, he's expected to be there immediately. He's expected to make sure everyone is staying safe. He's expected to never make a mistake. And then in a brief moment, he has to dash into a phone booth, change into Clark Kent. And now he's expected by his editor at the newspaper to not only report all of the current news and be effective at it, but he's got to report the news on himself. Wait a second. Now this is getting confusing. And what about growing up on a different planet than he was born on? He's got an alien family. He's got an earthly family. And both of them expect him to be who they expect him to be based on those environments, right? And then let's not forget the fact that he's got a social environment. He's got to network as Clark Kent, and he's also got friends. So how does he juggle all of that? I'm curious, has anybody ever asked him who he wants to be? Because I think we just mentioned at least 6 different people. And so we can go on. So how might it feel if we could go through every part of our day as the only me that we wanted to be and remove all those extra hats and just wear one? So does it ever feel like there's not enough time? Like guilt sets in when you're thinking about planning some time for yourself? Does it ever feel like what others think is ever a concern? Then it might be time to ask, who do we want to be? What does that me look like? I believe, in my case, I had this faceless person deep down inside that wasn't able to come out because of all those hats. I refer to that as my secret identity. And that's what I believe there are many people who would be thrilled to find. And so are you ready to get curious? And if you have that pad and that paper, we're going to do a little deep dive right now. We can move on to the next slide. Thank you. So I want you all to remember that there are no wrong answers here. First question, what would focusing on yourself first do for you? Where in your day might you want to experience self-responsibility most? On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most, how often do you take care of yourself before you care for others? We have answers. Each answer has someone who feels that they may have rarely or never done any care for themselves first. The majority, 64% of us, say sometimes, and 23% said often. Maybe that 23% that even said sometimes, where in your day might you want to experience self-responsibility? And what would doing this do for you? Jot down, if you will, what's important about this for you. Big question. What are 3 things that stop you from doing things for yourself? And I invite you to write those 3 things down. Which one of these things would you like to remove from your schedule? What would removing it do for you? And I invite you to write this down so that you can go back and look at it at a later date and see how you feel when you look at it. So what might you want now? Please list 1 to 3 things that you would like to do for yourself that you currently are not doing. Which one of those are you going to do today? And I'm curious, who might benefit from this? Thank you very much for being curious with me. So the most important thing to know is that people believe in who you are, not what you do. And it all starts with you. So when you discover that you don't necessarily know what you don't know about yourself, to be able to merge all of those many hats into one, then it might be time to look at redefining your ROI in all dimensions of your life. My redefinition of ROI is relationships, opportunities, and identity through innovation. I'd like to invite you to take this work that we've done here briefly today a little bit further. So for some of us, it may be just what we wanted and just what we need, and for others, it won't. I'd like to invite you to think about what's your personal vision of what's possible for you? How does that fit into the bigger vision of the world that you want to be in? My experience through many of the networking events that I have been to and a lot of the professionals that I have spoken to as someone working in a medical office, I hear typically the same line from everyone that I speak to, the majority. I can't do this because I have to do that. And so I work through an innovative system to help people kick that have to habit to become number one on their to-do list. So if we could put up that last polling question, if you are able to redefine your ROI on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most, how often might you be number one on your to-do list? So interesting. So if you were able to redefine your ROI, now we don't have any answers saying rarely or never. We have 43% that say sometimes and 57% that say often. So I'd really like to invite you to think about how valuable that could be for any of us and how we might benefit from really looking inside and discovering who we want to be. I'd like to invite you to be open to the possibility that this time really can be different. Because I know for the longest time I said, oh, it can't happen. There's just no way. But I believe that as we work on your story, as we work on your why, and we unwrap your secret identity, if that's what you're looking for, through discovery and implementation, we can allow ourselves to be who we want to be and become number one on our to-do list and turn those have-tos into want-tos. And so with that, I would like to just close sharing with you about a client of mine named Dina, who was a nurse, worked as an EMT for her local firehouse, also got her certification as a health and life coach, and has a family, a husband, 2 daughters that she's taking care of, a house, and was frantic about which way to zig and zag. She also takes care of her elderly father, and she somehow got adopted to take care of everybody else's elderly parents. And somehow she was always the person that was turned to. And it's all these many hats again. Well, through our work together, she now is who she wants to be almost 100% because she puts herself first. And that makes her able to not only be the best that she can for everybody else, but her whole family benefits because she's much happier. And so I will just say something that most of you have probably heard more times than you can even count. When you fly, the stewardess will always tell you, put that oxygen mask on first, because that's the best way you can help anyone else on the plane if something goes wrong. Why don't we do that every day? Why don't we put ourselves first so we can be the best that we can be for everybody else? And so with that, I'd like to say thank you. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your focus on the questions. And I will open the floor for any questions that any of you may have.
Thank you so much, Lynn. Let me start off by asking a question because one of the things that you're going to find with a lot of people that are here in this room is that we're all in the healthcare field because we have such a strong desire to help others.
Mhm.
So when we're looking at that last poll, that to change things, how often would you focus on yourself first? And you see 53 to or 57 to 43, I think was the poll between often to sometimes. Um, what do you say to those of us who find part of our identity and actually serving others?
So what I feel from my own experience and the experience of the people that I've worked with, the major part about the work that you do to become number one on your to-do list is understanding that by merging all of those hats into one, you're not sacrificing your identity in any one of those areas. You're just merging them all together. I, for one, grew up being the one that took care of everybody else, made sure that everyone's happiness was satisfied, everyone's problems were fixed, and I was last on my list. Well, now I'm first on my list, and I still am there for everyone else when it's the right time for me to be there for everyone else. I don't sacrifice anything. I just understand that if I'm putting myself first, I'm healthier, both mentally and physically. And the people that I am serving, the people that I am caring for, are getting a much better quality of care from me.
Excellent. Thanks.
Mhm.
Does anyone else have any other questions? Sharon? Sherry?
I have a question. I have a
Hey,
question.
Lisa,
Sure.
please.
Hi, good
Hey,
morning. Good
Lisa.
morning. Hi, good morning, everybody. Um, how do you, knowing that you're wearing all these hats, you have all these tasks at hand, and your goal is to achieve those multiple tasks for the day, do you have any recommendations on how to focus on that one at a time until everything is accomplished? What do you do to do that? I find myself every now and then I'm doing something, but I'm thinking about the other five things, and I really want to dedicate myself to the thing that I'm doing at that time. Do you have recommendations on how to do that?
What I can do, Lisa, is I can share with you what I feel has been most successful for me. And one thing that I realized, and I invite you all to consider this, is that the stressors that we deal with every day as we wear these many hats, those are facts. Facts are things that we cannot change or control. What we can do, Lisa, is we can build our resilience to that stress because we can't eliminate the facts. Therefore, we cannot eliminate the stress, but we can build our resilience. An example, I think everyone in this room has seen a small child that they're probably very closely connected with fall down and start to cry. What do? We make it like it's okay. It's okay. We try to make them laugh. We try to divert their attention, right? What happens to us as we become adults? Why do we lose that resilience? We always say, how many times have you heard, oh, kids are resilient, they'll bounce back. Why, as adults, don't we have that resilience? So I, keyword here, chose to build my resilience so that I'm focusing on the positive and not focusing on the things that I cannot change, the facts. So I invite you all today to consider that whenever you're in that moment and you want to pull your hair out because 1, 2, 3, 4 hats are making you go like, Calgon, take me away, if you remember that commercial, I invite you to say to yourself in that moment, what's good for me right now? What do I want? How can I build my resilience against these facts? Because very often I have found that I'm actually worrying about something that really isn't mine to fix. And I felt like that was a trap that I fell into, a thinking trap, if you will, because of all the hats. Because, like you said, Lisa, you feel like you're not really taking off one hat for another. You kind of really are. You've got an arm in one hat, another arm in another hat. Wait, let me get the knee up here. Wait, maybe a foot, you know, and you feel twisted like a pretzel, right? Well, I'm curious, how effective do we feel we are when we're twisted like that? Might we be able to be way more effective if we take those few extra moments to take care of ourselves? And so in this moment, if it's okay with you, Lisa, I would just like to share with you, and I think I may have in the past, about my Me Monday. I believe we talked about it, or I had mentioned it in another event that we were in, but let me share with everybody. I went around to all these different events. I'm actually a member in 2 different chambers. And I had so many people saying to me, I can't because I have to. It became my mission to say, how can I change this to I want to? So I created Me Monday. And then nobody really took me seriously. So I put my money where my mouth is and I invested in Me Monday. How did I do that? I trademarked it. So I'm telling you all, I'm so passionate about caregivers getting the care that they need. Me Monday is now a day every week on the calendar, like any other holiday that you're going to celebrate, whether it's Boss's Day, Caregiver's Day, Secretary's Day, your birthday, and celebrate that every Monday. I don't think it's hard to fit in 5 minutes. I have an alarm that goes off on my phone that says 5 minutes spa moment. And it goes off every day. And I may not be able to do it in that moment, but I do take it at some point. And what do? Wherever I am, if I have my phone, I can put on some spa music. Everybody's got Pandora or some sort of thing. Sit for 5 minutes and just escape. Just take a moment. How many of you think that you could take a moment for yourself?
Excellent, Lynn. That's really great. Lisa, you're on mute if you were trying to say something.
No, I was putting a thumbs up. Thank you so much. I think that what I got from what you said, Lynn, was to build resistance to the fact that I have these things to do, right? And breathe through them and just focus on things one at a time. I like the idea of building my resilience, and I've been doing that. I just got a bicycle, and I've been doing it every morning, just 15 minutes, and it's been, what, 10, 11 days now? It is making such a significant difference for that time for me.
Congratulations. That's wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah, it's all about choice. If we make the choice to choose ourselves, everything else will change. It doesn't mean we don't have responsibilities. It doesn't mean that we're going to just throw everything to the wayside and not pay attention to it. But the one thing we have control over, when all those many hats make us feel like we don't have control, is we have the power of our own choices. That is the control that we have.
Thanks so much, Lynn. I appreciate it. Does anyone else have any questions? We'll take one more.
No? If nobody else, I'm sorry, John, sorry. I'd like to say one thing. Being in the healthcare industry, all of you have to have a ton of resilience, because I think there's so much that you can't change. And David, I'm going to just single you out because I know you so well, but being in the home care industry, you know, you're helping people. There's a lot about people's situations that you can't change. So you have to have so much resilience to deal with that. So I just applaud everybody, because you're doing something to change somebody's life, but it has to affect you guys at some level. So I think resilience is key. And the other thing I would just ask really, really quickly, Lynn, and we could talk about it another time, but lately, as I get older, which I hate to admit that I'm getting older like everybody else, I feel like multitasking is like a dirty word in a way. Does anybody, it used to be you'd interview for a job or you do this and say, I'm a great multitasker. I don't necessarily know if I believe in multitask. You can do things at once, but I think that you have to take them in your mind one at a time.
Well,
Just a quick thought,
would,
sorry.
No, that's okay. And I really do appreciate that question. And I'm confident that there's probably a handful of other people that may have that same concern. Let me put out there to anybody here in this room that if any of you are feeling like you might have some more questions, or you might want to try and figure out even the slightest thing, I offer a complimentary discovery session for anybody that's here in this presentation. Just let me know, just reference the Shan presentation, and I'll be more than happy to have this discussion with you. And Jen, we can schedule that and definitely go into it a lot further, because I know we're in the interest of time, we're kind of limited, but I'm giving everyone the gift of my time for any other questions that they may have, that they may even not want to bring up in the group. So.
Well, thanks, Lynn. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Donna Addy, I know that you came in late. Would you like to do a quick introduction and say hello? You're on mute.
Okay. Hello, good morning. I'm sorry I got here late, but I'm so happy to see everybody. And this was really an awesome presentation, and I'm so glad I attended.
Excellent. Thanks, Donna. Does anyone have any announcements? If you could just raise your hand, I will get to you as I see it, so that way we can't do it. Lisa, go ahead. You're on mute.
Yes, sorry, attending. I was multitasking earlier. I was driving and listening to Lynn at the same time. I just wanted to mention to everyone that Allegro Parkland, we will be having a really fun Halloween event on October 28th, starting at 3:30. We're going to have entertainment. People will be dressed in costume, and we have adult treats for everyone. So I would invite everyone. You don't even have to come out of your car. And it's just a means by which to keep everyone uplifted and have a little bit of fun in the midst of our stressors and building our resilience. Thank you.
You're welcome, Lisa. Does anyone else have any announcements?
All right, well, John, you took care of it. Oh, Susan, you do not?
No, I just wanted to add on and thank you for the presentation, that if anybody is thinking that they're too old or it's too late, that you can build resilience and rewire your brain at any stage of life. And what's important to do that is to add on that positive self-talk. It's just a healthy formula, so we're all capable. Thank you for the presentation.
So Barbara always likes to end with a positive comment and or quote, and simply I'm going to say you have 13 days to vote. I'm not going to tell or suggest who you should vote for. Just know the facts about your candidate, and please, please vote, because it's so important. And wear a mask. Today was all about taking care of ourselves. And people say, and there's been some information going around, that masks don't protect you from the virus. But you know what they do? They protect everyone else that is around you. And if everybody else around you wears a mask, then you are being protected too. So please put on a mask. Have a great, happy rest of your month, and we'll see you in November.